The priest looked at João and said, "This baby will not be baptized here." The entire church fell silent. João felt his face burn. His hands trembled as he held his son in his arms. He looked around. All the faithful stared at him with pity or contempt. His heart raced. He only wanted his baby's baptism, nothing more. But why did the priest do that? João had never asked for anything before. Was it because of his old clothes? Or was there something else? What no one knew was that this humble man kept a secret. And when the truth came to light, the priest would never forget that day. Comment: is this fair? I want to know your opinion. My name is João Silva. I am 38 years old and I work as a janitor in a public hospital in the city. I wake up every day at 4 in the morning to take 2 buses to work. My routine is exhausting, but I have never complained. I've always believed that work dignifies a man, no matter what it is. I live in a simple house on the outskirts, with my wife Anna and our newborn son Gabriel. The house has 2 small bedrooms, a living room that also serves as a kitchen, and a bathroom. The walls are peeling, the roof has some leaks when it rains hard, but it is ours. We pay rent on time every month, without fail. Anna works as a housekeeper. She is a strong woman with unwavering faith. She was the one who insisted we baptize Gabriel at St. Peter's Church, the same one where I was baptized as a child. My mother, who has already passed away, always said that church was special, that it was a blessed place. I promised her before she died that if I ever had a son, he would be baptized there. When Gabriel was born, it was the happiest day of my life. I held that little baby in my arms and cried. I cried with joy, with gratitude, with fear too. Fear of not being able to give him everything he deserves, of not being a good father. Anna hugged me and said that God would give us strength, and I believed her. 3 months have passed since Gabriel's birth. Anna started talking about the baptism more frequently. "João, we need to schedule it soon. We cannot leave our son without the sacrament," she would say, while rocking the baby to sleep. I agreed, but I confess I was putting it off. Not for lack of will, but out of apprehension. Apprehension about what? It is hard to explain. I always felt out of place in that church. Even when I was a child, when my mother took me on Sundays, I noticed the looks. People saw me in my patched clothes, my poorly cut hair, and looked away, as if I were invisible, or worse, as if I should not be there. But I promised my mother, and a promise is a promise. On a Tuesday afternoon, after leaving work early, I went to St. Peter's Church. I was wearing my best outfit, a pair of jeans that was already worn at the hems, and a white dress shirt that Anna had lovingly ironed the night before. My shoes were clean, but they were old. They were the same ones I wore at my wedding 5 years ago. The church was located in the city center, in an upscale neighborhood. The building was imposing, with tall towers and colorful stained glass windows that shone in the afternoon sun. In front, there was a well-kept garden, with flowers and wooden benches where some people were talking. Everyone seemed well-dressed, with designer clothes, imported cars parked on the street. I took a deep breath and went in. The interior of the church was even more impressive. The ceiling was high, decorated with paintings of angels and saints. The floor was polished marble, so clean it reflected the light from the candles lit on the altar. The silence was absolute, only broken by the echo of my footsteps. I walked to the parish office, which was in a side room. There was a middle-aged woman sitting behind a desk, working on a computer. She wore glasses and had her hair pulled back in a bun. When she saw me enter, she quickly looked up, sized me up from head to toe, and looked back at the screen. "Good afternoon," I said, trying to sound polite. She took a few seconds to respond. "Good afternoon. What do you need?" "I would like to schedule my son's baptism," she sighed, as if I were disrupting her day. "You have to talk to the priest. He is in the sacristy." She pointed to a door at the back without looking at me. "Thank you," I said, but she had already returned her attention to the computer. I went to the sacristy. The door was ajar. I knocked lightly. "Come in," said a firm voice. I pushed the door open and saw the priest. He was sitting in a leather chair, reading a thick book. He must have been about 50 years old, neatly combed grey hair, impeccably clean and pressed cassock. He looked up and stared at me with an expression I could not decipher. It was not exactly hostility, but it was not welcoming either. "Good afternoon, Father," I said, removing an imaginary cap I was not wearing. My mother always taught me to be respectful to priests. "Good afternoon. What brings you here?" I would like to schedule my son Gabriel's baptism. He is 3 months old." The priest slowly closed the book and looked at me. "Are you a member of this parish?" "Not exactly, Father, but I was baptized here as a child. My mother was a regular. She passed away a few years ago." He nodded, but did not seem impressed. "I see. And do you currently attend church? Do you participate in masses?" I felt a tightness in my chest. The truth is, I did not go to mass frequently. Between work, exhaustion, and bills to pay, I always had an excuse. But I did not want to lie to a priest. "Not much, Father. My work is heavy and—" "What do you do for work?" "I am a janitor at a hospital." There was silence. The priest looked me up and down, the same way the woman in the office had done. I felt my face heat up. "And your wife, does she work?" "Yes, Father. She's a housekeeper." Another silence. "And do you have the means to contribute to the parish?" he asked, crossing his arms. "Contribute?" I was not expecting that question. "Contribute, Father?" "Yes. The church needs resources to sustain itself. The bills do not pay themselves. There are fees to cover the costs of baptism, the ceremony, the holy water, the maintenance of the church. You understand, do you not?" I felt a lump in my throat. How much would it be, Father?" He picked up a sheet of paper from the desk and slid it in my direction. It was a table with values. My eyes widened when I saw the number. It is quite a lot, Father," I said, my voice trembling. "It is the fair amount. Everyone pays." "Everyone? Did everyone there have difficulties like me? Did everyone have to choose between paying for a religious ceremony and buying diapers for their child?" "Father, can I pay in installments, or perhaps a smaller amount? I really would like—" "Mr. Jerome," he interrupted me, his voice a little colder now. "I understand your situation, but the church has its rules. If we make an exception for one, we will have to make it for everyone. But, Father, it is a baptism. It is a sacrament. My mother—" "Your mother is no longer here," he said, cutting me off. "And the world has changed. The church needs committed people who can contribute, who are examples to the community." I felt anger beginning to boil inside me. Examples. What did he mean by that? That I was not a good example because I was poor? "Father, I work honestly. I support my family. I do not harm anyone." "I'm not questioning your character, Mr. Jerome. I'm just being realistic. This is a large parish with many commitments. We cannot perform baptisms for everyone who shows up here with no connection, no contribution." My heart was racing. I clenched my fists, trying to control myself. "So you are saying my son cannot be baptized here?" He sighed as if he were tired of me. "I am saying there are other churches in the city. Perhaps one closer to where you live, where things are, more suitable to your reality, more suitable to my reality." Those words echoed in my head like a punch. He was sending me away. He was saying I was not welcome there because I was poor. "I understand," I said, my voice coming out lower than I would have liked. "Thank you for your time, Father." I turned to leave, but before I reached the door, he said, "Mr. Joan, do not take it personally. It is just the reality of things." I did not respond. I left the sacristy, crossed the church and went out the main door. The sun was strong outside, but I felt cold. My legs were shaking. I sat on one of the garden benches, trying to process what had happened. I was rejected. My son was rejected by a priest, in a church, in the place where my mother prayed, where she believed there was love and welcome. I sat on that bench for almost half an hour. People passed by, entered and left the church, and no one looked at me. I was invisible again. I took out my cell phone and called Anna. "So, honey, did you manage to schedule it?" she asked anxiously. I could not answer immediately. My throat was tight. "Jerome, are you okay?" I could not do it, I finally said. The priest, he said he cannot perform the baptism. What do you mean he cannot? Why? He said I have to pay a high fee, and when I asked if I could pay in installments, he kind of told me to look for another church, one more suitable for us. I heard the silence on the other end of the line. Then Anna's voice trembling. Suitable? What does that mean? It means we are not welcome there, Anna, because we are poor. She started to cry. I closed my eyes, feeling a pain in my chest. I had failed her. I had failed my mother. I had failed my son. I'm going home, I said. We will talk better when I get there. I hung up and stared at the church. That beautiful, imposing building, full of gold and marble. How many humble people had already been rejected there? How many stories like mine existed, hidden behind those doors? On the way back home, sitting on the crowded bus, I kept thinking, did God really want things to be this way? Would Jesus, the one who walked with the poor, with the fishermen, with the rejected, approve of this? I am not very knowledgeable about the Bible, but my mother always told me stories. Jesus never charged anyone. He welcomed. He loved. But there, in that church, there was no welcome. There were rules, there was money, there was judgment. When I got home, Anna was in the living room holding Gabriel in her lap. Her eyes were red from crying so much. I sat next to her and hugged her. I'm sorry, I said. It is not your fault, Joan, she replied, her voice choked. It is the fault of that man who forgot what really matters. We stayed there, in silence for a long time. Gabriel slept peacefully in his mother's arms, oblivious to everything. He was so small, so innocent. How could someone look at a child and deny him a sacrament because of money? In the following days, I tried to forget what had happened. I returned to my work routine, taking the buses at 4:30 in the morning, cleaning hallways, bathrooms, hospital rooms. But it stayed in my head. I could not stop thinking about it. Anna was also different. She tried to hide it, but I noticed. She was hurt, disappointed. Not with God, she always emphasized that, but with the men who claimed to represent him. We should try another church, she said one evening while we were having dinner. I know, I replied, but I promised my mother, Anna. I promised it would be at that church. Your mother would understand. She would not want you to suffer because of it. Maybe she was right. But something inside me did not accept simply giving up. It was not just about the promise. It was about dignity. It was about justice. A few days later, something unexpected happened. I was at the hospital cleaning the third-floor hallway when one of the doctors called me. Dr. Henrique was a tall man, about 40 years old, always friendly to me. He was different from the other doctors. He always greeted the cleaning staff by name, asked how we were doing. João, I need to talk to you, he said, with a smile on his face. Yes, doctor. Did something happen? Nothing bad. Do not worry. Actually, it is something good. Do you remember that hospital expansion project I mentioned to you last month? I remembered vaguely. He had mentioned something about a renovation. I do remember, doctor. So, the project was approved, and management is putting together a new supervisory team for the cleaning area. I recommended you. I blinked, not understanding. Recommended me? Yes. You are hard-working, responsible, honest. You are the kind of person we need in a leadership position. The salary is almost double what you earn now. Would you be interested? I felt my heart race. Double the salary. That would change everything. We could leave that house with leaks. We could buy new clothes for Gabriel. Anna could work less. I am very interested, doctor. Thank you. Thank you so much. He smiled and patted me on the shoulder. You deserve it, João. Send your updated resume to HR tomorrow. It is just a formality. I left there floating. I could hardly wait to tell Anna. When I got home that night, she was giving Gabriel a bath. I told her the news and she screamed with joy, hugged me and started to cry, but this time with happiness. God is taking care of us, Joe, she said, smiling. He never abandoned us. In the following weeks, everything started to fall into place. I was promoted. My salary increased. We were able to organize ourselves financially. Anna even started talking again about Gabriel's baptism. "We can already afford the fee at that church now," she said. But something inside me had changed. I no longer wanted to go back there. Not out of pride, but because I realized something. That place did not represent what I believed in. My faith was greater than those marble walls. "Let us look for another place," I said. "A place where we are truly welcome." Anna agreed. But fate, or perhaps God, had other plans. One afternoon, I needed to go downtown to sort out some documents at the bank. When I was heading back to the bus stop, I passed in front of St. Peter's Church. I stopped for a moment looking at that building. So many memories, so many emotions. That was when I saw the priest coming out through the side door. He was talking to a man in a suit, laughing. The two got into a luxury car that was parked in front. Something nudged me inside. Curiosity, perhaps. I started to pay more attention to that church. I searched the internet. I discovered that the priest was known in the city for his good relationships with wealthy businessmen. There were even articles in local newspapers about millionaire donations to the parish. Millionaire donations. And yet, he had denied my son's baptism because of a fee. I felt the anger return. But this time, it was different. It was not just anger. It was indignation. It was a desire for justice. I started talking to other people who attended the church. I asked discreet questions, and I discovered that I was not the only one. There were other cases, other poor families who had been rejected, other stories of humiliation. An elderly lady told me she was expelled from Mass because she was not dressed appropriately. A young man told me he was prevented from making his first communion because his parents could not afford the preparatory course. That was not a church. It was an exclusive club, and I decided I was not going to let this pass. I still did not know how, but I was going to do something. I was going to expose it. I was going to show that priest that he could not treat people that way. But before I could act, something happened that would change everything. One Sunday morning, 2 weeks after my visit to the bank, I received a call. It was from an unknown number. "Hello? Mr. João Silva?" said a male voice, formal. "Yes, that is me. My name is Dr. Fernando Alvarenga. I'm a lawyer. I need to speak with you about an urgent matter. Can we schedule a meeting?" My heart raced. Lawyer? Urgent? Had I done something wrong? "What is this about?" I asked nervously. "I prefer to speak in person, Mr. João, but I can tell you in advance that it is about an inheritance." Inheritance? Inheritance. That word echoed in my head as if it had been said in another language. I did not know anyone who had left anything for me. My mother had passed away years ago and had nothing but some clothes and personal belongings. My father I never knew. He abandoned my mother before I was born. "Mr. João, are you still there?" asked the lawyer. Yes, I am sorry. It is just that I do not understand. Inheritance from whom? As I said, I prefer to explain in person. Can you come to my office tomorrow? Let us say at 10 in the morning. I looked at Anna, who was watching me with a confused expression. That works. Where is it? He gave me the address. It was downtown, in a commercial building. I wrote everything down and hung up. What was it? Anna asked. A lawyer. He said there is an inheritance for me. She widened her eyes. Inheritance? From whom? I do not know. He did not want to talk over the phone. We spent the rest of the day speculating. Could it be some distant relative I did not even know? Some mistake, some scam. Anna advised me to be careful, but she was also curious. The next morning, I wore my best outfit. It was still simple, but it was clean and pressed, and went to the lawyer's office. The building was elegant, all glass, with a spacious lobby and air conditioning. I felt out of place again, as if I should not be there. I took the elevator to the 10th floor. The office had a gold plaque on the door. Alvarenga and Associates, law firm. I entered and was received by a secretary who asked me to wait. A few minutes later, a man in a grey suit came out of a room. He must have been about 60 years old, white hair, prescription glasses. He extended his hand to me. Mr. João Silva? Yes, that is me. I am Dr. Fernando Alvarenga. Please come in. I followed him into a large room with a varnished wooden desk, shelves full of books, and a window overlooking the city. He offered me a chair and sat on the other side of the desk. Mr. João, I will get straight to the point. I represent the estate of Mr. Roberto Almeida. Do you know that name? I frowned, trying to remember. Roberto Almeida. It did not sound familiar. No, I do not know him. The lawyer nodded. I imagined so. Mr. Roberto was your uncle, your mother Maria Silva's older brother. My heart jumped. My mother had a brother. Yes. They drifted apart many years ago, still in their youth. There was a family fight, and they never spoke again. But in recent years, Mr. Roberto began looking for her. He discovered that she had passed away, and then began looking for you. I felt a lump in my throat. My mother had never mentioned a brother. Why? What had happened between them? Why was he looking for me? I asked. Because he had no other heirs. He never married, had no children. You are his only living relative, and he passed away 3 months ago, leaving everything to you. I blinked, processing that. Everything? What would everything be? The lawyer opened a folder and slid some documents in my direction. Mr. Roberto was a successful businessman. He had a construction company, real estate, investments. The total inheritance is valued at approximately 50 million reais. The world stopped. 50 million reais. I must have heard wrong. It was not possible. Mr. João, are you okay? 50 million? Yes. It is a considerable amount, I know. But before you celebrate, I need to clarify some things. There is a legal process to follow. Documentation, inventory, taxes. It will take a few months until everything is released. But yes, you are the sole and legitimate heir. I could not speak. My mouth was dry. My heart was beating so hard, I thought I was going to faint. I need you to sign some documents today to start the process, continued the lawyer. And I also need copies of your personal documents. Did you bring them? I nodded mechanically and handed over my documents. He made copies and handed me a stack of papers to sign. I signed everything, still in shock. When I left that office, I was trembling. I sat on a bench in the square in front of the building and called Anna. João, did you manage to talk to the lawyer? Anna, you are not going to believe this. What? Tell me. I inherited 50 million reais. Silence. Anna? João, that is not funny. I am not joking. It is true. I have an uncle I did not even know existed. He died and left everything to me. She started to cry, and so did I. In the following days, my life turned upside down. The lawyer explained to me that, while the inventory was not completed, I could not touch the money. But he advanced an amount for immediate expenses, 100,000 reais. 100,000 reais, more than I would earn in years of work. The first thing I did was rent a better house. Nothing extravagant, but a decent place, with 3 bedrooms, no leaks, in a safe neighborhood. Anna cried when we entered for the first time. Gabriel was in her arms, looking at everything with curiosity. I bought new clothes, not designer clothes, nothing absurd, but nice quality clothes. I bought a used car, but in good condition, something reliable to take Anna to work and Gabriel to the doctor without depending on buses. But I did not tell anyone about the inheritance. Except Anna, no one knew. I was afraid that people would change toward me, afraid that they would see me differently. And mainly, I still had not forgotten what had happened at St. Peter's Church. One evening, while Anna was putting Gabriel to sleep, I sat on the porch of the new house and thought, I had money now, I had power. I could do something that before seemed impossible. I could go back to that church, not to ask, but to show. Anna did not like the idea when I told her. João, let it go, she said. We have already moved on. We already found another church, one where we were welcomed. Why do you want to go back there? Because it is not just about us, Anna. It is about all the other people who were humiliated there. It is about justice. She sighed. Justice or revenge? That question made me stop. I wanted justice, of course, But there was a part of me, small but undeniable, that wanted that priest to feel what I felt, that he would realize the mistake he made. "I just want to show him that he was wrong," I said, "that the value of a person is not in their bank account." Anna looked me in the eyes. "And do you think he will learn that?" "I do not know, but I need to try." I spent the following days planning. I knew that simply showing up there with expensive clothes and a new car would not help. I needed something bigger, something that would make an impact. That was when I had the idea. St. Peter's Church was always asking for donations for renovations. I had seen the posters. They wanted to restore the roof, replace the old stained glass windows, build a new wing for catechism. All of this would cost a fortune. What if I offered that fortune? I scheduled a meeting with the priest. I called the parish office and said I was a businessman interested in making a donation. The woman who answered me, the same one who had treated me with indifference months ago, was enthusiastic. "The priest will love to talk with you. Can you come tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon?" "That works," I replied. The next day I wore a new suit I had bought. Nothing extravagant but elegant. I put on a nice watch, leather shoes. I put gel in my hair. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I almost did not recognize myself. Anna hugged me before I left. "Be careful with your heart, Joan. Do not let anger consume you." "I know what I'm doing," I replied, but the truth is, I did not know. I arrived at St. Peter's Church at 3 o'clock sharp. I parked my car in front. It was not a luxury car, but it was new and clean. I entered through the main door and went straight to the office. Did the woman recognize me? I do not know. If she did not show it. She received me with a warm smile. "You must be the businessman who called yesterday. The priest is waiting for you. Please follow me." I followed her to the sacristy, the same room where I had been rejected months ago. I knocked on the door. "Come in," said the priest's voice. I pushed the door open and entered. The priest was sitting in the same leather chair, but this time he stood up immediately when he saw me enter. His face lit up with a wide smile. "Good afternoon, welcome," he said, extending his hand. I shook his hand, keeping my expression neutral. "Good afternoon, Father. Please sit down. Can I offer you coffee? Water?" "No, thank you. I'm fine." He sat back down, clasping his hands on the desk. "So I was told that you are interested in making a donation to the church. It is wonderful when good people are willing to help the house of God." Good people. Was I not a good person when I was wearing old clothes? "Yes," I replied. "I heard that the church needs renovations. Roof, stained glass windows, a new catechism wing." "Exactly. You are well informed. They are important projects, but unfortunately very expensive. We have been running a campaign for months, but we still have not been able to raise enough. How much would be needed to carry out all these renovations?" He picked up a folder and opened it, showing me spreadsheets and budgets. "In total, we are talking about approximately 2 million reais. 2 million, a high amount, but one I could now pay without even feeling it." "I understand," I said, pretending to analyze the numbers. "It really is a considerable amount." "Yes, which is why any contribution would already be of great help. Some faithful have donated 50, 100 reais. Local businessmen have contributed 5, 10,000. Every penny makes a difference." I was silent for a moment, letting the tension grow. He looked at me expectantly, like a salesman waiting to close a deal. "What if I cover everything?" I asked. He blinked. "Cover everything?" "Yes, the 2 million. I can donate the full amount." I saw his face change. Surprise, disbelief, and then something that disgusted me. Greed. "Sir, forgive me, I did not catch your name." João Silva." There was a brief silence. I saw something pass through his eyes. A spark of recognition? No, impossible. He probably did not even remember me. "Mr. João, that would be extraordinary, a blessing, are you sure?" "Absolutely, but I have some conditions." He leaned forward. "Conditions? Of course. What do you need?" First, I want the renovation to start immediately, no waiting months to begin. Second, I want a plaque at the church entrance, thanking for the donation. And third, I paused, looking directly into his eyes, I want you to baptize my son, here, in this church. But of course, it will be an honor to baptize the son of such a generous benefactor. When would you like to schedule it? Next Sunday, in the afternoon. Perfect. I will set aside the time. And about the baptism fees? There will be no fees, I interrupted, my voice becoming colder. Or rather, they are already covered by the 2 million, do you not think? He laughed nervously. Yes, certainly. It was just a formality. You understand. I do not understand, I thought, but I said nothing. I will arrange the money transfer this week, I said, standing up. My lawyer will contact the parish. He stood up quickly, almost tripping over his own cassock. Wonderful. You cannot imagine how much this means to our community. God will reward you. I turned to leave, but before opening the door I stopped. Father, may I ask a question? Of course, whatever you want. Do you remember me? He frowned. I beg your pardon. I came here a few months ago. I was dressed more simply. I wanted to schedule my son's baptism. Do you remember? I saw the color drain from his face. His eyes widened slightly. Yes, he remembered. I see many people, Mr. João. You told me to look for another church, one more suitable to my reality. Remember now? The silence in the room was deafening. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Funny how things change, is it not? I continued. A few months ago, I was not welcome here because I was poor. Now, suddenly, I am a blessing. My son could not be baptized because I did not have money to pay a fee. But now that I have 2 million to donate, it is an honor to baptize him. Mr. João, it was a misunderstanding. I never meant to what? Humiliate me? Judge my family by appearance? Deny a sacrament to my son because of money? He was pale. I apologize, sincerely. Sometimes we make mistakes. The pressure of the parish, the bills, the responsibilities. I should not have acted that way. I looked at him for a long moment. That man who weeks ago seemed so powerful, so superior, was now shrunken, sweating, stammering, and I did not feel satisfaction. I felt sadness. You know what is worse, Father? It is not the fact that you rejected me. It is the fact that you are only apologizing now because I have money. If I had come back here still poor, still wearing my old clothes, you would have sent me away again. Is that not right? He did not answer. He did not need to. The answer was written all over his face. I will make the donation, I said. Because this church needs renovations, and because I know there are good people here who deserve a better place to worship. But I am not doing it for you. I am doing it despite you. I left the sacristy without looking back. I crossed the church, feeling the weight of the stares from the faithful who were there. Some must have heard our conversation. Others just saw me as another well-dressed man. When I got home, Anna was waiting for me in the living room. She looked into my eyes and asked, "So?" I sat next to her and told her everything. She listened in silence, holding my hand. "You did the right thing," she said in the end. "I do not know, Anna. I do not know if it was about doing the right thing or about getting revenge. Maybe it was both, and maybe there is nothing wrong with that. You confronted him, you showed his hypocrisy, but you are also going to help the community. That has value." I hugged her, feeling the smell of her hair, the warmth of her body. Gabriel was sleeping in the crib next to us, so small, so innocent, and soon he would be baptized, in the church where my mother baptized me, where she prayed, where she believed. But I would do it my way, not with submission, not accepting being less than others, but showing that dignity has no price. The following days were hectic. My lawyer contacted the parish, the documents were signed, the money was transferred. News of the donation spread quickly. Local newspapers published articles. Some people started looking for me, wanting to meet me, wanting something. I kept my distance. I did not give interviews. I did not want the spotlight. But on Saturday, the eve of the baptism, I received a call. It was the priest. "Mr. João, good afternoon. I would like to talk to you. In person, if possible." I hesitated. "About what?" "About what happened. About my actions. Please, give me this opportunity." I sighed. "Tomorrow, before the baptism, at 2 in the afternoon. Thank you. Thank you very much." I hung up and stared at the phone. Anna was watching me from the kitchen. "He wants to talk," I said. "And are you going?" "I am, but I do not know what to expect." On Sunday, at 2 in the afternoon, I returned to St. Peter's Church. This time I took Anna and Gabriel with me. We entered together through the main door. The church was empty, except for the priest who was waiting for us near the altar. He looked different, older somehow, more tired. We walked to him. Gabriel was in Anna's arms, looking curiously at the colourful stained glass windows. "Mr. João, Mrs. Anna, thank you for coming," he said, his voice low. I did not respond. I just waited. He took a deep breath. "I have spent the last few days reflecting about my life, about my choices, about the kind of priest I became. And I realized something painful. At some point I forgot the purpose of my mission. I remained silent. I got lost in bureaucracies, finances, appearances. I began to treat faith as a business, and in the process, I hurt people. I rejected people. People like you." He looked at Gabriel. "And when I look at this baby, I see Jesus. Not the Jesus of the stained glass windows and statues, but the Jesus who was born in a manger, poor, humble, rejected." Tears began to stream down his face. The priest's tears fell silently. He wiped his face with his hands, ashamed. "I do not deserve your forgiveness," he continued, "but I need to ask for it, not just for what I did to you, but for every time I put money above people, for all the times I judged someone by appearance, for every time I forgot that my mission is to welcome, not to select." I looked at Anna. Her eyes were full of tears. I looked at Gabriel, so peaceful in her arms, oblivious to it all. And then I looked at the priest. A broken man, a man who had made terrible mistakes, but who perhaps was genuinely repentant. "Father," I said, my voice calm but firm, "I did not come here seeking your destruction. I came seeking justice, and justice is not only punishment, it is also transformation." He looked at me, his eyes red. "You hurt me, you hurt my wife, you hurt my son, even if he does not know it yet. But what hurts me more is knowing that others have gone through the same. People who did not have the luck I had. People who are still being rejected, humiliated, excluded." "I know," he murmured, "and I will change, I promise." "Promises are easy, Father. Actions are hard. If you really want to redeem yourself, it is not with me you need to make things right. It is with every poor person who knocks at this door. It is with every family that comes here without money, but full of faith. It is with every person you judged in the past." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I will. I swear I will." Anna stepped forward. "Father, I was raised in a Catholic family. My grandmother was a catechist. She always taught me that the church is everyone's home, especially the most needy. But when my husband came home that day, rejected, humiliated, I lost a bit of my faith, not in God, but in the people who claimed to represent him." The priest bowed his head. "But I also learned," Anna continued, "that we all make mistakes. We all fail, and that forgiveness is one of the pillars of our faith. So, I choose to forgive you. But I hope you honor that forgiveness with real change." The priest looked at her and new tears ran down. Thank you so much." There was a heavy silence, but not an uncomfortable one. It was the kind of silence that comes after a storm, when the air finally feels calm. "Shall we do the baptism then?" I said. He nodded, wiping his face again. "Yes, let's." The ceremony would be at 3 in the afternoon. He took us to the baptismal font, explaining how the ritual would go. There were some people beginning to arrive, family members we had invited, some friends from work, neighbors from the new house. But there were also people I did not know, simple people, humbly dressed, who apparently had heard about the baptism and came out of curiosity or faith. At exactly 3 o'clock, the ceremony began. The priest was transformed. not physically, but in his demeanor. He spoke gently, with humility. He looked at Gabriel with genuine tenderness, and when he pronounced the sacred words, pouring water over my son's little head, I felt something move inside me. Forgiveness. It was not easy, it still hurt, but I chose to forgive. Gabriel cried a little at the cold water, but soon calmed down. Anna cradled him, whispering sweet words. I embraced her, the three of us together, and in that moment, I felt that my mother was there, somehow, smiling. After the ceremony, there was a small reception in the parish hall. The priest made a point of greeting everyone present, especially the humblest. He talked, listened, smiled. He seemed like a different man. When everyone started to leave, he called me aside. Mr. Jerome, I would like to show you something. I followed him to a small office at the back of the church. He opened a drawer and took out an old notebook with a worn leather cover. This is my diary, he said. I have written in it for 20 years, records of masses, reflections, prayers. He opened to a marked page, but also records of mistakes. He showed me a list, names, dates, situations. After our conversation, I began to remember all the people I rejected over the years. Dozens, Mr. Juo, dozens of families I should have welcomed, but did not. I wrote the name of everyone I could remember. I looked at the list. There were names, some with incomplete addresses, others just with descriptions. Man who asked for a baptism in 2018, torn clothes. Elderly woman who wanted a seventh-day mass, no money. I felt a tightness in my chest. I will look for each of these people, he said. I will say sorry. I will offer the sacraments I denied. I will try, as much as possible, to make amends for my mistakes. And if some do not want to listen, then I will have to accept it. But at least I will have tried. I closed the notebook and handed it back to him. That is a start, Father, a good start. He put the notebook away in the drawer. Mr. Jerome, may I ask one more question? You may. Why did you make the donation? After everything I did, why did you still help the church? I thought for a moment before answering. Because the church is not you, Father. The church is that 70-year-old lady who comes to pray every day. It is that young man who helps voluntarily with catechism. It is the mother who brings her children to Sunday Mass, even though she lives far away. Those people deserve a beautiful, well-kept place to worship, and it would not be fair to punish them for the mistakes of one man. He nodded slowly. You are more Christian than I am, Mr. João. I am not more Christian. I am just trying to be a decent person. We left the office and returned to the main area of the church. Anna was talking to some women, Gabriel still in her arms. When she saw me, she smiled. In that moment, I felt that I had finally closed a cycle. My promise to my mother had been fulfilled. My son was baptized, and somehow I had helped plant a seed of change in that place. In the following days, the story spread through the city, not in the way I expected. I thought people would talk about the donation, about the money, but what they talked about was the confrontation. About a poor man who was rejected and came back rich. About a priest who was forced to face his hypocrisy. Some people congratulated me, others criticized me, saying I should have been more compassionate, less vengeful. I listened to all the opinions, but I did not let them affect me. I knew what had happened. I knew why I had done what I did. What surprised me was the number of people who began to reach out to me, people who had been through similar situations, people who had been rejected by churches, by priests, by religious leaders who put money above faith. A man called me crying. He said his daughter had died and he wanted a funeral mass, but the priest charged an amount he could not afford. He had to bury his daughter without the ceremony he dreamed of. A woman sent me a message. She said she wanted to get married in the church, but was prevented because she and her fiancé were poor and could not pay the fee. They ended up marrying only at the registry, but she always felt incomplete. Each story was a stab. Each account showed me that the problem was bigger than I thought. That was when I decided to do something more. I called a meeting with the priest and other parish leaders. I brought with me some of the people who had contacted me, and I proposed a change. From now on, I said, No one will be prevented from receiving a sacrament in this church because of lack of money. No one. Baptisms, weddings, masses, everything will be accessible to all. Some parish council members protested, but how are we going to keep the church running? The bills will not pay themselves. I know, I replied. That is why I am going to create a fund. A permanent fund that will cover the church's basic operational costs for the next 10 years. And those who can contribute will, but never again will anyone be rejected for being poor. The silence in the room was absolute. Some council members looked at me with admiration, others with suspicion. The priest, however, was smiling, a genuine smile of relief. I fully support this proposal, he said. It is exactly what this church needs. Not everyone agreed immediately. There were discussions, debates, arguments about sustainability and precedence. But in the end, the proposal was approved. With the fund I created and the commitment to seek voluntary donations, the church could operate without depending on mandatory fees. In the following months, changes began to appear. The church became fuller. Humble families who once felt excluded now came freely. Children were baptized. Couples got married. Funeral masses were celebrated with dignity, regardless of the family's financial situation. And the priest kept his word. He looked for every person on the list in his notebook. Some received him well. Others sent him away. Some cried when they heard his apology. Others simply slammed the door in his face. He told me about each visit, and even when he was rejected, he did not give up. It is the least I can do, he would say. But not everything was perfect. There was resistance. Some long-time faithful, accustomed to the previous model, began to complain. They said the church was turning into welfare, that it was losing its essence. Some even left, seeking other parishes. This hurt the priest. I saw it in his face, but he persevered. One afternoon, he called me. "Mr. João, I need to talk to you. Can you come to the church?" I went. When I arrived, he was sitting on one of the pews, alone, looking at the altar. "What happened, Father?" I asked, sitting next to him. "I received a letter from the bishop. He heard complaints about the changes we made. He wants me to reverse everything." I felt anger return. "And are you going to reverse it?" He looked at me, and for the first time I saw firmness in his eyes. Not arrogance, firmness. "No, I will not. The bishop can transfer you. He can even remove you." "I know, but I finally understood something, Mr. João. For years, I served the institution. I worried about numbers, appearances, what superiors thought of me. But now I want to serve God, truly. And if that means losing my position, so be it." I smiled. "You have changed, Father." "No," he corrected. "I returned to being who I should have been from the beginning, and that is thanks to you. Do not give me credit. You made the choices. I just gave the push." We sat there for a while, in comfortable silence. Then he asked me, "And you, Mr. João, how are you dealing with all this? With the inheritance, with the fame, with the changes?" I thought before answering. It has been strange. There are days I wake up and still feel like the janitor who took the bus at 4 in the morning. There are days I look at my bank account and cannot believe it. But one thing has not changed. I am still the same João, and I intend to continue being so. "And your plans? Will you continue working at the hospital?" "For now, yes. I like what I do. I like helping people, even if it is just cleaning a hallway or bringing a smile to a patient. Money has not changed that." He nodded. "You are a wise man." "I am not wise. I am just someone who got lucky and is trying to use that luck to do some good." I got up to leave, but he called me. "Mr. João, may I ask one last question?" "Of course. Did you truly forgive me? Or is there still anger?" I looked at him, at that man who months ago had hurt me deeply and who now was genuinely trying to change. "Father, forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It does not mean the pain completely disappears. But it means choosing not to let that pain control me. So yes, I forgave, and I hope you continue to deserve that forgiveness." He smiled, his eyes moist. "I will try, every day." I left the church and went home. Anna was cooking, Gabriel playing on the living room rug with his colorful toys. I sat on the floor next to him, and he looked at me with those big, curious eyes, smiling. "You do not know," I said to him, "but you changed a lot, little one. You showed me what really matters." He babbled something unintelligible and went back to playing. I smiled. Anna came from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. "How did it go?" "The bishop wants the priest to reverse the changes, but he refused." She sat on the couch, thoughtful. "He will face problems because of that." "He will, but I think he is ready to face them." "And us? Are we going to continue supporting the church?" "I think so. As long as they maintain the commitment to welcome everyone, we will support them." She smiled. "You know your mother would be proud, right?" I felt a lump in my throat. "I hope so." The months passed. The church renovations were completed. The new roof, the restored stained glass windows, the catechism wing built. Everything was beautiful. And the plaque at the entrance, as I had requested, said, "Donation from João Silva and family, so that all may be welcome in the house of the Lord." The story of the priest and his transformation began to spread. Other parishes began to adopt similar policies. The bishop, initially resistant, ended up yielding when he saw the positive impact. St. Peter's Church became an example. And me, I continued my life, working, taking care of my family, using my money to help where I could, hospitals, schools, social projects, always discreetly, without fanfare. Anna went back to school. It had always been her dream to go to college, but she never had the opportunity. Now she did. She enrolled in education and was loving it. Gabriel was growing fast. He started crawling, then walking. Each milestone was a celebration. Each smile from him was a reminder of why all of this had been worthwhile. But there was a moment, almost a year after the baptism, that marked everything. I was at the hospital working when an elderly woman stopped me in the hallway. She was a patient there, hospitalized for a few weeks. Whenever I passed by, she greeted me. "Mr. João," she called, holding my hand with hers, trembling and cold. "Yes, Mrs. Maria, I heard your story about the priest, the church, everything." I was surprised. I did not know my story had gone that far. "You heard?" "Yes, my granddaughter told me, and I wanted to thank you." "Thank me? Why?" She smiled, her eyes shining. "Because you gave me hope. Hope that there are still good people in the world. People who use what they have to help, not to show off. People who do not forget where they came from." I felt my heart tighten. "Mrs. Maria, You do not need to say anything, my son. I just wanted you to know that what you did matters. It matters a lot." She squeezed my hand and let go. I continued my work, but those words stayed with me. It matters. Everything I went through, the rejection, the pain, the anger, the confrontation, the forgiveness, mattered. Not just for me, but for other people, for people I did not even know. That night, when I got home, I hugged Anna and Gabriel for a long time. "Is everything okay?" Anna asked. "Yes," I replied. "Everything is more than okay." And for the first time in a long time, I really believed it. Weeks later, I received an invitation. The priest was organizing an event at the church, a celebration of 1 year of renovations and the new welcoming policies. He wanted me to speak to the congregation. I hesitated. I did not like public speaking. I did not like attention. But Anna convinced me. People need to hear your story, not to glorify you, but to inspire. So I accepted. On the day of the event, the church was packed. There were people from all social classes, rich and poor, side by side, young and old, all there to celebrate something bigger than walls and stained glass windows, to celebrate welcome, community, true faith. When it was my turn to speak, I went up to the pulpit with trembling legs. I looked at the crowd and saw Anna smiling, holding Gabriel. I saw the priest sitting in the first row with attentive eyes. I saw unfamiliar faces, but all hopeful. I took a deep breath and began. "A year ago, I entered this church as a rejected man. I left as a determined man. I came back as a man seeking justice. And today, I am here as a grateful man." Grateful, I continued, my voice echoing through the church, not for the rejection I suffered, but for what it taught me. It taught me that dignity cannot be bought, that faith has no price, and that a person is worth much more than the money in their bank account. I stopped for a moment, looking at the attentive faces. I could have used my story to destroy, to seek revenge, to humiliate those who humiliated me. But I chose a different path. I chose the path of transformation, because in the end, it is not about winning or losing. It is about what we leave behind. I pointed to Gabriel in Anna's arms. That is my son, Gabriel. He was the reason for all of this. When the priest told me he could not be baptized here, something broke inside me, but something also awakened. I realized that if I did nothing, other children, other families would go through the same thing. I took a deep breath, feeling emotion rising. And today I look at this transformed church, not just in the walls and stained glass windows, but in the people. I see families that once felt excluded, now participating. I see a priest who had the courage to recognize his mistakes and change. I see a community that understood that welcoming is more important than profiting. I paused. But I want to make something clear. This is not my victory. It is the victory of each of you who chose to stay, who chose to support this change, who chose to believe that a church can be different. I came down from the pulpit to applause. It was not deafening applause, but it was sincere. The priest stood up and hugged me. "Thank you," he whispered in my ear, "for everything." After the event, many people came to talk to me. Some to thank me, others to tell their own stories of rejection and overcoming. Each conversation reminded me why all of this mattered. A young couple stopped me. They were about 25 years old, dressed simply but with bright eyes. "Mr. João, I am Pedro, and this is my wife Carla. We wanted to thank you." "Why?" I asked. "Because of the change here. We were able to get married. We tried 2 years ago, but did not have money to pay the fee. We ended up postponing it, but now, finally, we did it. And it was beautiful." Carla had tears in her eyes. "We were almost giving up on getting married in the church, but you made a difference." I hugged them both. "It was not me, it was your will not to give up. I just helped open the doors." They smiled and walked away hand in hand. Seeing that filled me with joy. But not all feedback was positive. A week after the event, I received an email. It was from a wealthy businessman in the city, a long-time parish member. The tone was aggressive. "Mr. João, your interference at St. Peter's Church has been a disaster. You turned a sacred place into a welfare center. Respectable families like mine are leaving because we do not want to mix with just anyone. You destroyed the essence of our community." I read the email twice. I felt anger, but also pity. Pity for someone who did not understand what it meant to be a true Christian. I did not respond. It was not worth it. I showed the email to Anna. She shook her head. "Some people will never understand." "I know, but we cannot let people like that discourage us. Are you going to give up?" "Never." And I did not give up. I continued supporting the church, but also expanding my help to other places. I began visiting other parishes, talking to priests, listening to stories, identifying similar problems. I discovered that St. Peter's Church was not an exception. There were dozens of churches charging absurd fees, rejecting poor faithful, prioritizing money over faith. And I decided to do something about it. I created a foundation. I called it Welcome Foundation. The purpose was simple: to help churches become truly accessible, providing resources so they would not depend on mandatory fees, and also to support families who needed sacraments but did not have financial means. Anna helped me set everything up. She had a natural talent for organization and management. Together, we created a system where people could register, tell their stories, and receive support. Within a few months, we had already helped hundreds of families. Baptisms, weddings, masses, everything was covered. And the impact was beyond expected. We started receiving thank you letters from all over the country, moving stories of people who thought they would never have access to a sacrament and who, thanks to the foundation, were able to. One letter particularly marked me. It was from a mother of 3 children in the interior of the Northeast. She told how she had lost her husband in an accident and did not have money for the seventh-day Mass. The local priest charged an amount she did not have. She was desperate, ashamed, not knowing what to do, until a friend told her about the foundation. "Mr. João," said the letter, "you do not know what it means to me to have been able to have that Mass. I was able to say goodbye to my husband with dignity. My children were able to see that their father was honored. You gave me back something I thought I had lost, hope. When I finished reading, I was crying. Anna, too. You are changing lives, João," she said. "It is not just me, it is everyone involved in this." But the work was not easy. There was resistance from the institutional church. Some bishops saw the foundation as a threat, as an implicit criticism of parish practices. There were even attempts to pressure me to shut down the project, but I did not give in. I continued, supported by progressive priests, committed laypeople, and all the families who benefited from the work. The priest from St. Peter's Church became one of the biggest allies. He traveled with me, visited other parishes, shared his own story of transformation. He was living proof that change was possible. A year after creating the foundation, we organized a large gathering. We invited priests, bishops, community leaders, beneficiary families. The goal was to share experiences, discuss challenges, and strengthen the support network. The event was held in a large hall downtown. More than 500 people attended. There were people from all corners of the country. When I went up on stage to give the opening speech, I looked at that crowd and felt a mix of pride and responsibility. Pride for what we had achieved, responsibility for what still needed to be done. 2 years ago, I began, I was just a janitor who wanted to baptize his son. Today, I am part of a movement that is transforming how churches treat their faithful. But I did not do this alone. Each one of you here is part of this transformation. I pointed to different people in the audience. Father Antonio, who opened his parish in the interior of Rio Grande do Sul to everyone, without distinction. Mrs. Francisca, who created a support project for single mothers in her community. Young Lucas, who organized volunteer groups to renovate churches in poor neighborhoods. You are the true heroes of this story. I spent the entire morning listening to reports, each one more moving than the last. Stories of overcoming, of faith, of love for others. Stories that made me believe that yes, the world could be better. At the end of the day, when everyone had already left, I sat in a chair in the empty hall. I was exhausted but happy. The priest came to sit next to me. Tired, very, but it is a good kind of tired. He smiled. "Have you thought about how much your life has changed in such a short time?" "I think about it every day." "And do you have any regrets?" I thought for a moment. "No, not one. Everything I went through, everything I faced, brought me here, and here is exactly where I should be." He nodded. "You know you are an inspiration to many people, right? Including me. Father, you are also an inspiration. You had the courage to change. That is not easy." "It was not easy," he admitted. "There are days I wake up and still struggle with the temptation to go back to old habits, to judge by appearance, to prioritize the rich. But then I remember your face that day, the pain in your eyes, and I know I can never go back to being that man." We sat there for a few more minutes, in comfortable silence. Then we got up and left, each to his own home, each to his own life. But the journey had not ended. In fact, it was only beginning. In the following months, the Welcome Foundation continued to grow. We opened offices in 3 states. We hired a small team of dedicated people who shared the same vision. Anna took on the role of administrative director and discovered she had an incredible talent for management. Gabriel turned too. He was talking, running, exploring the world with that curiosity typical of children. Whenever I looked at him, I remembered why I had started all of this. For him, for his future, so that he would grow up in a slightly fairer world. One afternoon, Anna called me to the foundation office. She was sitting in front of the computer with a worried expression. "What is it?" I asked. "I received a complaint. A parish in the interior of São Paulo is charging abusive fees and expelling poor families. It is exactly what happened to us." I felt the old anger return. "We have to do something." "I know, but this time it is different. The priest there has strong political connections. He will not accept intervention easily." "It does not matter. We cannot ignore it." We traveled to the city. It was small, with about 20,000 inhabitants. The church was in the center, imposing as always. When we arrived, we were received with hostility. The priest was a man of about 50 years old, tall with a hard expression. He received us in his office, but stood the whole time crossing his arms. "I know who you are," he said without beating around the bush, "and I am not interested in your revolutionary ideas." "We are not revolutionaries," I replied calmly. "We just want to help the families who are being harmed by abusive fees." "Fees? They are not fees. They are fair contributions. The church needs resources." "But what about those who cannot pay?" Anna asked. "Then let them look for another church, simple as that." It was like hearing the priest from St. Peter's Church 2 years ago, the same coldness, the same contempt. "Father," I said, trying to stay calm, "I have been through this. I know what it is like to be rejected for not having money, and I can assure you that this is not God's will." "And who are you to say what God's will is?" he retorted, his voice rising. "A janitor who got rich. That does not give you authority over me." I took a deep breath. Fighting would not help. "Father, I am not trying to have authority over you. I am just offering help. If the issue is money, I can help the parish. But in return, I ask that everyone be welcomed, regardless of financial condition." He laughed, a sarcastic laugh. "You think money solves everything, do you not? You show up here with your foundations and your pretty speeches, thinking you are going to save the world. But the world does not work that way." "Maybe not," Anna said, her voice firm. "But the church should work that way." He looked at us with contempt. "Get out of my parish, now!" We left, but we did not give up. We talked to the faithful of that church. We heard their stories. We documented the abuses. And we took everything to the diocesan bishop. The bishop, unlike the priest, was receptive. He listened to our complaints carefully and promised to investigate. 3 months later, that priest was transferred. A new priest took over, with a more welcoming vision. It was a small victory, but significant, and this became our standard of action. Whenever we received a complaint, we investigated, offered help, and when necessary, took the case to ecclesiastical authorities. We did not always get immediate results, but we planted seeds. 2 years after creating the foundation, we decided to take stock. We sat in the living room, Anna, our small team and I, and reviewed everything we had done. More than 3,000 families helped. 15 churches transformed, hundreds of sacraments performed at no cost, 2 priests removed for inappropriate conduct, 3 new social projects created in underserved communities. The numbers were impressive. But what touched me most were the stories. Each thank you letter, each baptism photo, each smile from someone who had finally been welcomed. "I am proud of you," Anna said, holding my hand. "I am proud of us," I corrected. "None of this would be possible without you." Gabriel came running into the room, jumping on my lap. "Daddy, let's play." I smiled. "Of course, my son, let's." While we played, I thought about everything that had happened, from rejection to transformation, from pain to purpose, from anger to forgiveness. And I realized something. My life had meaning, not because of money, not because of fame or recognition, but because I was making a difference, because I was helping people who, like me, just wanted to be treated with dignity. That night, after putting Gabriel to bed, I went out on the porch and looked at the starry sky. I thought of my mother. I imagined her smiling, proud of the son she raised. "I kept my promise, Mom. I whispered to the stars. Gabriel was baptized in your church. And more than that, I transformed that church into what it should always have been, a place of welcome, a place of love. A gentle breeze passed, and I felt as if it were a hug from her. Anna came to the porch and hugged me from behind. What are you thinking about? Everything. Nothing. About how life is strange and wonderful at the same time. It really is, she agreed. And you know what is most wonderful? What? Knowing that this is just the beginning. We still have a lot to do. She was right. There was still much to do, many families to help, many injustices to fight, many lives to transform. And I was ready to continue this journey, not as a millionaire, not as a hero, but as João Silva, a simple man who believed that dignity, respect, and love have no price, and that they should never ever be denied to anyone. Years later, when I looked back, I would know that that day at St. Peter's Church, that painful day of rejection, was the day that changed everything. Not just for me, but for countless people. Because sometimes you need to be broken to be reborn stronger. You need to face injustice to fight for justice. You need to feel pain to develop empathy. And I was grateful for every step of this journey, for the mistakes and successes, for the tears and smiles, for everything. Because in the end, what really matters is not how much you have, but how much you give. It is not where you arrived, but how many people you helped get there with you. And that was the lesson I wanted to leave for Gabriel, for him and for anyone who heard my story. To never let anyone diminish you, to fight for your rights and the rights of others, to be kind but firm, humble but dignified, generous but fair, and above all, to never, ever forget where you came from. Because in the end, we are all equal before God. Rich or poor, powerful or humble, we all deserve respect, love, and welcome. And that is the true essence of faith. And you, what did you think of this story? Have you ever been through a similar situation? Have you ever felt rejected or judged because of your financial condition? Leave your opinion in the comments. Your story can inspire other people. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you do not miss the next videos, and share this message, because the more people know that dignity has no price, the fairer the world will be. Until the next story.